Hello, everyone. So the intention now of this little video is just to explain a little bit about me, my background, and my offerings, and what I do, and also some of the more frequently asked questions that I get. So first of all, my name's Shay. I've been doing evolutionary astrology readings for almost 12 years now. So over that time, I've been fortunate enough to do hundreds and hundreds of readings over the years. And I have also been lucky enough to have found a guide or a teacher a long time ago, nearly 10 years ago now, who really helped to activate me into especially the evolutionary astrology side of things. So I'm 41 now, but even as a little girl, I always knew a lot about astrology. I would if I ever went up to shopping centers with mum, which she loved shopping centers and I didn't at all. I hated them, but I would like to go into the bookshops and read astrology books. On this website, I even talk about the earthquake that we had in Newcastle when I was 8 years old. I was actually with mum at a shopping center, the local shopping center, and when the earthquake hit, and we all had to evacuate the building as it was rumbling. But I was actually in a bookshop at the time. Mum was next door in the shoe shop, and I was reading astrology, as I always was. And one of the bigger astrology atlases hit me on the head. That ended up, I found out much later in life that was a transit for me, where my vortex was back on my sun sign. Which is also like a sign from the universe, obviously, but that was obviously an obvious sign from the universe. But astrology was something that, when I was even little, I would read astrology and I'd sort of understand it on such a deep level. And I'd even understand it to the point where I'd be able to look at what astrologers would write and say, oh, yeah, I believe that. Or, oh, no, that's not entirely how I see it. And I didn't really understand why I knew so much about astrology but I'd still started to really explore deep into astrology when I started my yogic path, which was over 12 years ago now. I started to get back into it and really explore astrology a lot. And then when I met my teachers, Beatrice and Pancho, like 10 years ago, then it all really activated, because I realized the whole, not just Western astrology side of things, but I realized the whole evolutionary astrology side of things, which is, to me, is the only thing that would have kept my astrology going anyway, because Western astrology is very limited in that it doesn't look at the deeper imprints of reincarnation or the deeper aspects of where that soul's come from, and where some of those past life traumas have kept the soul limited in its evolutionary growth, and where the soul's greatest intention for actually incarnating into the form, into this current lifetime, what's the deepest intention of the soul in evolutionary terms. And this all became very activated again when I reconnected in this lifetime with Beatrice. And when I say reconnected, I've been an astrologer with her in other lifetimes, and that became obvious. I actually started to, as soon as I went to Thailand the first time and done some deep yogic practices with her, the dreams started to come in, where I would be dreaming very vividly of other lifetimes where I'd been an astrologer. And then I started to realize that I'd been an astrologer with her, and that she'd been my mother in other lifetimes. And and then the whole past life thing started to become very obvious. And then I had lots of recall of different lifetimes that I had had, a lot of Native American Indian lifetimes, and lifetimes as a geisha in Japan, and yeah, and I started to recall a lot of these things, and then they would link up with the insight that I would get from her later. So the evolutionary astrology reading side of things started to activate 10 years ago. And that was my offerings. And then 4 years ago, I was introduced to human design, and then straight away over to the gene keys. And even though the systems are different, they're all astrological based, but human design and gene keys are based on the I Ching, the 64 gateways of the I Ching. And as soon as I was introduced to human design, because I had a strong background in astrology and knew a lot of astrology and how to read astrology, I automatically just knew how to read human design. It was something that came really easy to me. I think even the mechanics side of human design, because the human design are more the left brain or the mechanical side of the astrological placements, and working through the mechanics of what's actually going on in the blueprint through the chakra system. But I have I'm a Pisces gal, Pisces sun. But I have a lot of Aquarius in my chart. I'm a south node of my moon's Aquarius, Mercury Aquarius and Venus Aquarius, but I have a strong activation of this Aquarian imprints as well. My Uranus is actually really strongly aspected as well in my chart, and I sort of understand the mechanics side really quickly with human design. But then I was introduced to the gene keys, and then from there, the gene keys just really, they connected with me just in a really deep level and a heart-based level, because the Pisces side of me has always been and seen life as magic. I know in a scientific way we can explain life, and scientists go on to explain what they can about, you know, what's happening on a biological level or a scientific level of how we became on Earth as a human species, and the plants and the animals. But for me, it's still very sacred and it's magical, really. And the magical side of the Pisces side of me understands the big picture, and really the right brain side approach to life is where all the magic lies, which I think is the most significant and the most special part of our life. And the gene keys really connect with the right side of our brain. They're mystical wisdom teachings that he calls them the gene keys because they're the genes of our DNA, or the blueprint of our DNA. But more than that, the gene keys have to come into your heart and unlock in the magic sort of unlocks itself within you over time. So once I was connected to the gene keys, from then there was no going back. I decided to become a guide for the gene keys, and then my astrology reading started to incorporate the teachings from the gene keys. The gene keys teachings are a little bit different than what you can offer with human design and astrology, because with evolutionary astrology, and the evolutionary side of things is also really intuitive. You can't really point to the chart and show a person how you know what evolutionary stage they're on. That's just a knowing. That's a deep intuitive knowing. And it's, and I've become very good at that, because astrology is an art. Like, everything's there to read, but it also is an art, and it's an intuitive art. And the artist or the astrologer themselves needs to be deeply intuitive to be able to be a good astrologer. And Beatrice told me that straight up. like from the very get-go, she said, you don't need to keep reading astrology books, because you will remember everything that you've learned in all different timelines and lifetimes, as when you were an astrologer already, in different settings. So even in ancient Egypt and Native American times, and in the Middle East as well, and lots of lifetimes that I've had as an astrologer in all these different settings. But she said, you will remember, so try not to read too many astrology books, because they will just confuse what's already pure within you that you already remember, and start to become a good artist of astrology and intuitively connect to what already is in there. And that's what I learned to do. I did do 15 months of a 2-year diploma. I don't know, maybe 8 years ago with the CIA, Cosmic Intelligence Agency. And I really loved it, because she was a great teacher, Julia, with also like explaining the astronomy and a lot of parts of astrology. But I really needed to let all of that go and just know what I knew already. But with evolutionary astrology, the markers aren't there in the chart to show, but in Western astrology, there was also always that question, which was, why do people that have twins, why are their twins so completely different? And it's because in evolutionary astrology, that's so obvious. It's because the twins are on different evolutionary journeys. So they've come to this point in time from a different fractal, a different journey through time space in multiple lifetimes. And what they've experienced until this point is different. So every soul is different in that way. And evolutionary astrology is a really intuitive art there, because the markers are there, but it's more than that. It's you get a sense of the soul and where they're at. And then with the human design, you really can show a person how to read their chart, and you can show them what's going on in their chart. And for people that really like to go, tell me what's happening and show me, I need proof that this is happening, it's more like, okay, this, and people can sort of walk away from the readings with human design and go, okay, yeah, I understand. I've seen how it works. The gene keys are a little bit different. They've got to come in. The gene keys have, out of the 64 gene keys, out of all of the 64 gene keys, there's a shadow level of consciousness for each of the 64 gateways. There's a gift level of consciousness, and then there's a siddhi, SIDDHI, which is the Sanskrit word, but it's the enlightened expression of that. Like it's the highest expression possible of that particular gateway, and they all are astrologically based, but they have to sort of come and be opened inside of you, and then they sort of come to life inside of you, and for that reason they are the magical mystical transmissions, or the mystic teachings that open in you, and the magic opens there. So when I do my readings now, I'm offering all 3 systems, which is a lot. I know now, I understand that I'm trying to really tell a person within 75 minutes or 2 hours, 3 different sets of teachings about themselves, when really each system. So evolutionary astrology, the readings could really go on for over 20 hours if you were to point out all the asteroids and look at the aspects to everything. And if you were to really go into everything, it would be, you know, easily a 20-hour reading. And then human design's the same. You could go on for hours and hours explaining someone's chart or blueprint. And then the gene keys, they take time, like months and months, to understand and come in and come to life. And so trying to put them into an hour and a half is tricky. But I also understand and still respect that a lot of people are only after at that. They really want to be able to get a reading of me and a taste of like, what's the main things that are going on for me? What's in my blueprint? What holds the most weight? Or what do I really need to know straight up about my soul's purpose and my soul's evolution and the main gifts, I guess, that I bring here into this lifetime, the character that I'm playing in the party of life that's on Earth right now, which we know that right now on Earth, as the Earth's in the galactic center, Earth's holding and hosting the biggest party in the galaxy. So we've all come to this party for one reason or another, to be part of this transformation of a species and a planet. So people want to know, what's my role? What am I supposed to be doing now? What's my soul trying to karmically learn, or what is my soul karmically doing? What's my soul's evolution? What's my intent to incarnate, and all of those things. And we can still, in the hour and a half or 2 hours, we can definitely get to those main bits of information. So I still offer those readings via recording, which I've done majority of my readings over the years, like hundreds and hundreds of readings have been done via recording. So I still offer via recording. They're 75 minutes and 133 Australian dollars. All my pricing still in Australian dollars. And then face-to-face or Zoom, 2-hour blocks, $155. But now I've also opened up to offer, and I do the same with transit readings and composite or synastry readings. But for synastry and composite readings, so synastry, composite are one reading within. You're looking at the synastry with two people and the composite chart that's created between two people. So this suits people that want to look at the dynamic between themselves and their child, or themselves and their partner, which is most common. Those readings I do, but I highly suggest that you get a birth reading first, so that you know what's going on for yourself before you're looking at the dynamic of a partner. And same with the transit readings. With the transit readings, which is looking at what's going on now in the current time, I highly recommend a birth chart reading first, because for me and for you, it's confusing without having a birth chart reading first, because I need to look at the bigger things of what your soul's doing on this planet in the first place through your natal chart before I look at the transits that are going on. And the same for you. It's much harder to get the messages for you as well, the person receiving the reading, without having a birth chart reading first. So on the website, it does say I highly recommend to do that first. Yes, and they're the same. I offer them via recording for people that have already had a birth reading, and also face-to-face or Zoom. And then now a new offering for me is my packages, where people can do 3 consecutive readings. So it's a total of 6 hours of readings. Schedule in 3 consecutive readings whenever it suits you. And it's a bundle, so it's $555, but that's 6 hours worth of readings there, or more. But that way we go, one whole block of the readings is evolutionary astrology. Then we can look at human design on its own instead of jumping between the systems, and then we can look at the whole of the gene keys. Because when it comes across to the gene keys, when I do my birth readings and try to cram it all into an hour and a half or 2 hours, I don't go into the whole, like the activation keys compared to the Venus sequence keys, compared to the Pearl sequence keys, and now the star pearl, and the evolutionary axis, which actually isn't even in the hologenetic profile yet, but I put them in my readings because you can tell from human design what the evolutionary arc is. I don't go into all of that in my 2-hour readings or my 75-minute readings because I run out of time. So the benefit of the packages is we get the whole time where we can dedicate it to the whole lot. And my other offerings, I am a Reiki practitioner, have been for a long time as well, pranic healer and acutonics. And I offered that with Reiki. And I love acutonics, although my friend Joya, I'm going to boost her here, but she's the specialist in this area in Newcastle, and then Ika King up in Northern Rivers. She's the master. And I like to always share who the master is, because for me, it's just, it's an honor to share who I've learnt from. And that's why I do that with Beatrice and also Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys, because I think it's respect of where that teachings come from, even though I do also acknowledge that I'm also a very good astrologer myself now. And I also offer crystal dreaming, which is a shamanic journey experience of past life recall and bringing in new gifts and new mastery. That's from Rayam Richards. He's also in the Northern Rivers in Australia, and he's the master there. But I also offer that because that was a calling that was obvious that it was next on what I should combine with my astrology, because in evolutionary astrology, past lives come up naturally. And then I thought, I went and had a past life regression or a crystal dreaming session with Rayam, which was extremely powerful. And it come up in that session that I can also offer it because I really wanted people that have had astrology readings with me over the years to experience themselves what their mastery and their gifts are, and where potentially where their blockages are coming from past life traumas that need to be cleared, because then they can see it for themselves. And that's equal, I mean, not equally as powerful, that's even more powerful in some ways. So I offer that as well, which has been incredible, because for me as the practitioner, it's only deepened all my wisdom, obviously, because I've been able to put people through that experience and learn from the person that's having the experience, which has been, incredible. And it's a whole process where you learn, okay, wow, really, you can't judge anyone in whatever their contract is on earth, because we're all experiencing different things for very deep, different reasons that are personal for our own journey, and also not personal. They're also a lot of it isn't just personal. A lot of it is way beyond personal. This part I will share right now because it's very true to my heart, but this part's not Rayam's teachings. I'm not sure if he totally agrees or aligns with this part, but Richard Rudd definitely does, and I do. This is something I do align with. I believe there are certain people that are experiencing deep karmic lessons for the collective, and for their ancestors, and are clearing a lot of collective and ancestral trauma, and are taking on a lot. And again, that's another huge reason why we can't judge, but these things can become obvious and I think can help the person understand that process in a really significant way, and also help family members to see them in a different light. Richard Rudd talks a lot about it in the Dream Arc. In the Dream Arc, one of the animals that we explore, the flamingo, he said if the people have drawn the flamingo in, they're one of the they should be honored very deeply, and they're one of the rare ones that have taken on a big role to take on a lot of collective suffering, and only really great souls are able to do that. And he says, what an honor. Even though when we were exploring that one, it was when my brother Josh was here and he had tears streaming down, because I know he's one of those people, and it come up in Beatrice's reading for him a lot as well, that he's taking on a lot for the collective. And when you understand those things on a deep level, it can really help souls that are struggling right now through a lot of different things, physical, emotional, psychological traumas. And it can help family members to really understand them in a different light. But all in all, this is what I offer. And yeah, it's if anyone is drawn to work with me in that way, in any of the things that I offer, thank you. And it is an honor. And yeah, moving through the great change on earth is also something that's incredibly magical, even though challenging. And as Richard Rudd will have in his teachings, we are going through a transformation of a species. At the very level of our DNA, we are completely changing, and the future is completely different to anything that we've experienced ever before, which is why he gives this whole transformational experience to the and uses the symbolism of the dragonfly, which goes through the 55th channel and the 59th channel, and they're my life's work, my sun sign and earth sign. I know of that transformation. I can feel it. I know it's happening. I've experienced a lot of the upgrades over the years where I know when they're happening. And it's just, sometimes it's hard and difficult, and the emotional whirlwind wave takes us away as we feel into collective pain. And other times you sit there in the wonder of how amazing it is to go through something that's so significant on our planet. And that's why I do this work all the time. It's why I had to leave just mainstream society's roles as a teacher a long time ago in order to follow my soul path and to follow my heart, because this is where I need to be as a guide in this way. So I really honor and thank you anyone that's drawn to me, and yeah, so much love. I will be also in Tash Ashwin's creating a new book, Warriors of Light, which I'll be putting my chapter in. Well, I have already submitted it, but it's obviously the book's not out yet. So more of my story will be there, but thank you so much for listening, and thank you.